Today is Valentine's Day, and you are here with me. I'm very honored to have you here today. I'm Kirstin Nussgruber from Kirstin'sCancerCare.com, and I thought I'd use this opportunity for my weekly Facebook Live to focus on love. What's love got to do with it? Can love heal? And it's not necessarily the love that you might be thinking of. Some of us are very blessed to be in very fulfilling relationships and have that type of relationship love in our lives. And some of us are not. And I remember very vividly in high school, growing up in South Africa, we had a tradition there at school that on Valentine's Day, you could pre-order a red carnation, and those were delivered on Valentine's Day. So you either were in the group that got carnations or one carnation, or you were outside that group. And somehow Valentine's Day was always associated with the partnership type of love. So there were some people that felt left out and lonely. And of course, there is a danger of that with a day like this as well. So to me, though, the most important type of love, and also the love that is essential in healing, is the love that we have towards ourselves. A type of self-love. And as I was mulling over what I'm going to talk about tonight, what I want to share with you and what this self-love means for me, a couple of things came to mind. And I think you might be able to identify yourself with this too. So let's give it a shot and see if you feel the same way. I see a couple of people are joining us. Thank you, Rhonda. Hi there. And if you have any comments, shoot them there. I can read them actually while you're writing, while I'm talking as well. So the question I want to ask you is, what shape or form does self-love have for you? What does it mean for you? Because sometimes we associate judgmental thoughts or even blaming thoughts with that. We feel that we've neglected that side of us. And sometimes it can take on other kinds of weird shapes or forms where we kind of discover who we are. And often when we have a crisis in our life, and usually that's health related, something like cancer is pretty much a crisis when our sheer existence is kind of questioned, we can come close to what does that actually mean? And that's really the moment when we should see eye to eye with who we really are, and establish that the most important person at any and all times that we really need to love, show love, give love, and also kind of expect a return in love, because it is reciprocal with your own higher self, is when you look at yourself. I asked myself, what does self-love mean for me? And I'm just going to randomly tell you what came up for me, because my thoughts and minds went all over the show. And I think an important point that brought it up for me was, when do we actually take the time to look at who we are? What are we feeling? What are we angry about? What are we upset about? What is recurrent behavior or habitual pattern in our own behaviors, in our own thoughts that keep on coming back, and where we always feel uncomfortable? That's usually a sign where we are not on the path of self-love anymore. We're kind of hopping off it, and that's exactly the point where we need to kind of turn around and address exactly that. So to give you an example, for me, what had come up with was, I had grown up being almost a perfectionist. Well, that's how I always drove myself. First of all, I think often as women, we kind of have that coming with us. We think we can juggle absolutely everything. We want to be superwoman. Most of us are privileged to have educations or access to education. So we want to have careers. We also want to have families, though. We want to juggle everything. We want to have our homes. We want to nest. We want to create a social network. We want to be involved in so many aspects, and we watch and look around and see, well, most of the women we know, friends or even acquaintances or colleagues, are doing the same thing. So I just need to fit in that same kind of model. And so we regurgitate this perfectionist behavior that we see around us. And maybe we grew up with it. Maybe it was role modeled by our mothers. Maybe when we become mothers, we are role modeling that same repetitive behavior again to our children, to our partners. Are we expecting that of our immediate partners? Is that maybe where some friction in our relationship comes from, because of our expectations that we place on our partners? But if we really take a close look, it's the expectations that we have on ourselves. These high expectations to be perfect everywhere. And so for me, a big part of following through on this self-love expression was to actually take a step back from my habitual behaviors and say, let me not sweat the small stuff. What is really essentially important here? And that was one thing that my cancer healing journey taught me as well, is just stop it. And before we look externally for blame or for scenarios or situations that we are uncomfortable with, actually start looking at your own behavior, your own expectations. What are you projecting out there? What are you expecting of yourself? And let's start right there. Why do things need to be perfect around you? Why do you want to be able to be 100% there, present with all the different nuances and facets that you have in your life? And can you take a step back? So number one, that for me was taking a step back from wanting this perfect life or perfectly organized or balanced life, and just saying, well, what if it is not this perfectly organized, this balance? What happens? Does it matter? So how does it translate for me? I really took a big step back from the way I organize my life around me. It used to be perfect and I would drive everybody crazy. And I decided no more, it doesn't need to be there. I can lax that as long as things are hygienic and we can find where things are, but it's not that important anymore. And if I look back over the past few years, I really have gone down a path of being a lot more accepting of my environment, but also of the expectations on myself. It is actually okay. I don't need to be anal about something. And again, that translated into what I expected of others as well. So I could be a lot more chilled. So again, that created an environment that was a lot more pleasant in those certain moments there. How else does self-love come up for me? Hi, Cindy. And so it's expectations that I have on myself, right? Form of self-love. It's also, though, in taking a step back and allowing some fun and joy to always be part of my life, because we, especially in our modern day world, we try and deliver all the time, and we try and compete maybe with, again, essentially that is competing against yourself, but also competing against expectations or role models that we see around us. So here again, what we need to do is just take a step back and go, what's going on here around me? Where do I fall into this kind of rut? Where is my joy? And connecting with it, what actually gives me joy? And has that part been neglected from a point of view that we never find time to do that because we always put the needs of others first? So this opens the door to being not selfish by saying I need some time for myself and saying no, but it's really showing self-love towards you by realizing that we can say no, we can delegate, we can ask for help, and we can stop expecting ourselves to be the main one that always has to organize everything, and just appreciate that time in which we do nothing, which, if that is what gives us joy, or going for a walk or reading a good book and not feeling guilty about that. So those kinds of little nuggets of time that we create for ourselves where we say it's okay to do that. I'll give you an example again in my own life. So I run my own business. I love what I do, but that means that sometimes I stretch my hours and they go into the evening hours. And what gives me joy is reading. It always has given me joy, but fun reading too. So what you see behind me, all the books, that's educational reading, although I enjoy that, but that is not relaxation reading in terms of what I want to do, say, just before I go to bed. So that little window in which I read my escape novel, let me call it that, right? That often becomes squashed and shorter and shorter and shorter as I stretch my work hours or try and fit something more in to maybe save some time for the next day. And I think we all fall into the trap of doing that. And then what does it make me feel? I kind of go to bed. I might have 10 minutes before my eyes droop and fall asleep. But I feel I didn't give myself enough time. So what I do at least 3 times a week, at least, is at a certain time I stop. And I make sure that I have plenty of time to get a good chapter from my book, for example. But just allowing that time, not kind of straggling the hours like we are often prone to do. Let's watch another show, or let's just quickly do some more searching on Facebook or things like that come in between. And then we feel I couldn't actually achieve what I wanted to do. So that's my number 2 thing here as well, is that we need to have time for some whatever, to be able to do what gives us joy, even in small little increments. But it's a conscious intention that we place in saying, this is what I want to do for fun, for relaxation, and I'm going to carve out the time to do that. And if it means I have to delegate something to somebody else, please can you pick so-and-so up from so-and-so, for example, or ask for help and say, I need to be able to do that for myself today. Can you please go grocery shopping, or can you please cook dinner tonight, or fold the laundry, or whatever it is that you always end up doing because you always do it. Make a plan and carve out that time and make it known. Announce it to your family members, because they might be looking at you a bit weirdly because they don't expect that you create this time for yourselves, because we're always doing for everybody else. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with letting your immediate family members know and say, this is me time. So and I need me time. Please allow me that. Set the boundaries. Open communication, I find for myself and for my clients, that has worked most effectively. But that's a form of self-love, is setting your own boundaries and making it known in a way that people know what to expect. So self-love, again, we need a sense of humor as well when it comes to how we expect to heal from a health crisis as well. So let's just be realistic about what we can achieve. Let's stop comparing ourselves to others, and let's just tune into ourselves, and reconnect with our bodies. And allowing an appreciation for who we are is important here too. And that's my number 3 point that I want to make tonight as well, especially for those of us who've had surgeries that has maybe disfigured parts of our bodies. It's very, very important that we address that and not want to shy away from accepting who we are, accepting what these changes have done to our bodies. It's a process for some of us, and it really also depends whether this is something we can hide behind clothing, as in with a bilateral mastectomy, for example, or if it is something that is pretty visible, like a facial surgery that we can't hide. So of course, those are different challenges, but loving who you are, the way you are, not wanting to fit a certain kind of norm, that's such an important lesson that if we don't learn it now, how can we expect the younger generation, our kids possibly, to grow up with that? And in my household, I have a young lady, teenager now, adolescent, I should say, because she's moving away from being a teenager to being a young adult. So this topic comes up often, because you see, and you, when we own up, we were the same, wanting to compete against certain ideals, comparing ourselves physically against what we are seeing around us. And the most important thing here in terms of self-love is, though, It's okay, the body that I have, the weird feet, the weird big toe that I might have, or the broad hips that stick out when they shouldn't be sticking out. Whatever it is that you want to find, it's important to connect with that. And when it comes to surgeries, I think that's a number one aspect too. I received a gift over Christmas by a dear friend of mine, and it's a big coffee table book, and it's a work of art where an artist used women that have had breast surgeries, everything from full mastectomies to reconstructive surgeries, but these women wanted to use their bodies as a work of art. And they were photographed and gold was draped over them. So these are really works of art. But the point is that you carry your scars with pride. And these women own their bodies. Of course, these were volunteers. But what struck me when I looked at that book was how they owned their bodies. That was pure self-love expressed in a way. Obviously, they went public with that. I'm not saying we should all do that. But the point here is, embrace what we have, especially if it has really drastically changed our lives to a degree where there is some form of disfigurement. And if we don't start with ourselves, we can't really project that outwards or expect others outside to respect us for that. I think that was one of the main lessons that came through with that as well, is we are the ones that need to respect and love who we are. And if we do, that literally radiates outside, and people can more efficiently react to us and accept us for who we are, rather than we expecting to receive that respect or recognition from others if we don't give it to ourselves first. So those were just the three things that came up for me that I found was important for me when I think about self-love. What do I do with myself? You know, we have to look at all our flaws. We have to kind of often do a little bit of a life review. Where am I? Where do I want to go? Am I happy with how I am behaving, how I am reacting, how I'm feeling towards someone, certain behaviors? You know, there's always things that come up where we say, I could have been a better wife, mother, lover, partner, friend, aunt, niece, whatever it is. But let's not use that to be judgmental. Let's just see, well, we're human, we make mistakes, but it's still you, self-love. It's part of us, part of who we are. And it's never, ever too late to turn around and say, I love you. Look at yourself in the mirror, because that's a reflection. That's a person looking back at you. And we say it often, I think, to our partners. We say it to our children. We say it to our pets. We should say it to ourselves just as often, because we deserve it. We are worth it. And this is for us. So thank you for being here on Valentine's Day. I hope for the remainder of the day you have some fun, find some joy, and carve some time, look at yourself, and just accept you for who you are, where you stand in life, what you've achieved, what you've accomplished, and just all the gifts that you can give that are you, that are part of you, because all of you, we all have so many gifts to give. So let's just allow ourselves to give them. And the biggest gift we can give ourselves is just some self-love, basically on a daily basis. So thanks for being here, everyone. Hi, Kelly. And thank you. Oh, your blessings. You're very welcome. And yes, I think that's a very, very important message that we need to give to ourselves. So feel free to share what your most number one priority is going to be, to share your self-love. If you want to be public, if not, it doesn't matter. Take it with you. But have a great, great evening, and take care for now.